Some of you may know that I work, in addition to being a mindfulness teacher, I'm a psychotherapist. Something that's been coming up in my sessions lately is the image of a whirlpool, and I'll explain. Also, some of you that have been listening to the podcast may know that I like the use of metaphor and imagery. When I say whirlpool, I mean I'm using it as a metaphor for the way that we think, the way that we behave. If you think of a whirlpool, if you've ever been in one before, either alone or with other people, if you swim or walk in one direction for a long period of time, the water will eventually, I guess you can say, learn to go in that direction. There will be force in that direction. So if you're walking or swimming in one direction around the pool, and then you stop, the pool will continue to go in that direction because it has built up force and momentum in that direction. The way that we think and the way that we behave is similar to this. Let's say somebody is 20 years old. They have been thinking or behaving in one way for all of their life. They have been building up force and momentum in that direction. And then just like the pool learns and continues in that direction, our neurotransmitters learn. Our body learns, our mind learns, and continues to go in that direction. What happens in the pool if you stop and try to swim in the other direction or walk in the other direction is there will be resistance at first. And depending on how much force is built up in the one direction, if you try to swim in the other direction, you may still be going in the same direction that the whirlpool was going in, because the force may be strong enough to be taking you in the old direction, let's say. So sometimes I see that happen in mindfulness classes or in therapy with my clients or in myself, is that we try to change a direction because sometimes we realize the direction we're going in, the way that we're behaving, the way that we're thinking, is not working for us. And then we try to change it, but there's resistance, and there's still force going in that old direction. And the force is stronger based on how long you've been going in that direction. If you've been thinking one way, behaving one way for 30 years, 40 years, it's going to be hard to turn around and change that direction. But we know from neuroscientific research, the word and the research behind the word neuroplasticity is that we can change the way we think. We can change the way our neurotransmitters fire. So it's possible to change the direction of the whirlpool, so to speak. I think one obstacle to this is sometimes I see in people and in myself, if we're swimming in one direction for a long period of time and we stop and we try to swim in the other direction, and then we see that we're still moving in the old direction despite the efforts to move in a new direction, that could be disheartening. And there may be the tendency to give up. I'm trying to be different and it's not working. Let's say a diet or exercise. Somebody has been overeating or not exercising, have gained weight over time, over a 10 years. And then they exercise for 2 weeks, or they diet for 2 weeks and no weight comes off. And it's like, well, I'm going in this new direction and nothing's even happening. So what's the point? I'll just stop. Or somebody goes to therapy and they go for 4 sessions and they say, well, I've been thinking and behaving this way for 25 years. I went to therapy for 4 sessions and I'm not completely different. So this isn't working. And they stop. I think it's important to recognize that there's a ton of force in the direction of those old habits, those old thoughts. And there has to be some level of understanding of that. Understanding that if the whirlpool is going in one direction and we stop, turn around and swim in the other direction, even though we're swimming in the other direction, our body may still be moving in the old direction, but with less speed, with less force. And also, to continue with the metaphor of the whirlpool, if we stop and swim in the other direction, the hardest it's going to be to swim against that whirlpool isn't when you first turn around. And the more you swim in that other direction, the more the water will learn, and the force will start going in the other direction, until at some point the water will be going in that new direction, and it requires very little effort on your part to move in that direction. It's the same thing with thinking and behaving in a new way. The more that we retrain our mind to work and think, and our bodies and minds to behave in a different way, the more force in that new direction, over time, the less effort that will be required, and the more it will happen organically. So I look at myself with meditation. In the past, there might have been tendencies to judge myself during my meditative practice. And there was a lot of force in that direction. But over time, practicing non-judgment through my practice, now it requires much less effort for me to recognize when there is judgment and to organically come to a place of non-judgment and a realization that I'm just sitting here in meditation, and that can't be wrong. I talked about the obstacle of people trying to change and not seeing any results and then giving up. That's one potential obstacle. And how it would be helpful to understand that it's going to take time and patience with the self. I think another question people have, another obstacle, is how? How do I change that direction? It's like, sure, James, if you change the direction and go in the other way, I understand it takes time, I understand it takes patience, but how do I even do that? How do I even change the direction? I think that if you think of the whirlpool example, if there are 5 people in the pool going in one direction, and you turn around, just you, and go in the other direction, there may not be a time that the direction ever changes if the other 4 people are still swimming in the other direction. So it could just be, I think about the support system we have around us. Let's say there are toxic relationships that we know are toxic and not serving us, taking us in the wrong direction. If we have 3 or 4 toxic relationships, every relationship we have that is not serving us, that we know is wrong, is a person swimming in the opposite direction in that whirlpool, and it's making it harder for us to change the direction. So I think in some ways it's taking an honest look at relationships that are not serving us And if they're not serving us, and if they're harming us, then taking an honest look and asking yourself the question, what would it mean for this relationship to change? How could it change? Or is it serving me to be in this relationship? And if not, then do I have to continue? Also, I think of support system. We can reach out. If you are struggling to change the direction, you can reach out for the help of family and friends. Talk to someone in your family. Talk to your friends. You don't have to hold on to it yourself. You can reach out, talk to someone, a coach or a therapist, a mentor, a priest, a monk, whatever your religious support might be. Because all of this is people that can help you change the direction. Confide in people that you trust and that you see are going in the right direction. If you have those people in your corner, it could be another person in your pool helping you change the direction. So people say how. One, you could take a look at the relationships in your life, taking an honest look, and seeing if changes need to be made. If you know those changes need to be made, and you're having a hard time making that change, looking at the question, what's getting in the way? Taking a real honest look at that. Maybe journaling about that. What's getting in the way to help you overcome that? And then also potentially reaching out. Family, friends, professional help, support from your religious community. These are ways that we can change. If you don't have anyone in that capacity, you don't have the means to go to a therapist or to pay for professional help, go to the library. You can get books that are free and can help you change. Books on neuroscience, books on understanding your own behavior, your own thoughts. Books by therapists that might be helpful in changing. Books by coaches, mentors. There are ways to change. So I think this would answer some of the questions that my clients or students may have had about how do we change, and is it possible to change, and what does change mean? Okay, I wanted to make it known as well. I said in one podcast before, but if you have questions, I think I'm going to start bringing questions up from people that are listening. If you have those questions, you can email them to me or put them on the Facebook page. The link to the Facebook page is in the bio of the podcast. You can post the questions on the Facebook page or email me, james@themindfulplace.net, and I will answer some questions on the podcast going forward. And also, it is helpful if you find time to review the podcast on iTunes. And any feedback that you want to give me on Facebook would be helpful as well. Okay, take care. Enjoy your day.